The quantum resonators screamed a dying song as the Vorkaxian flagship Imperial Fury fractured around Princess Ariana. Holographic displays flickered like dying fireflies, each pulse of light revealing another critical system failure. She was no mere royal passenger. She was the blade of the Imperium, a living weapon forged from generations of martial perfection. Her biomechanical combat suit, a marvel of Vorkaxian engineering, interfaced directly with the ship's systems. Neural tendrils of quantum organic technology extended from her spine, allowing her to simultaneously pilot the massive warship, coordinate defensive protocols, and engage in direct combat. Where other species saw a princess, the Imperium saw a weapon of calculated precision. The human resistance had chosen the Crimson Nebula for a reason. Its quantum interference fields disrupted standard communication and weapon tracking, turning the vast cosmic landscape into a nightmare of unpredictability. Conventional warfare doctrine meant nothing here. This was a battlefield where chaos reigned supreme. 3 human strike vessels emerged from quantum-masked positions, each one a cobbled-together nightmare of repurposed mining equipment and stolen military tech. Their approach defied every principle of naval combat the Vorkaxian Academy had ever taught. They weren't trying to win through superior firepower, but through something far more dangerous: uncontrolled, adaptive thinking. Defensive pattern Omega 9, Ariana commanded, her voice a cold mathematical algorithm of survival. The ship's quantum shields reconfigured, creating nested probability fields that should have made direct hits impossible. But the human ships moved with a fluidity that suggested they weren't following any known combat protocol. A massive energy burst tore through the ship's starboard quantum resonator. Normal crews would panic. Vorkaxian training demanded absolute emotional control. Ariana's response was instantaneous. She routed power through tertiary and quaternary systems, creating a defensive matrix that would have been considered mathematically impossible by any standard military analysis. Her mind raced through 1,000 potential scenarios. Each potential outcome was calculated, evaluated, discarded, or retained with machine-like precision. But something was different this time. The human resistance was doing something unprecedented. They weren't just fighting. They were reimagining the very concept of warfare. A secondary explosion ripped through the lower decks. Automated repair drones swarmed like metallic insects, attempting to seal breaches and stabilize critical systems. Ariana knew the ship was dying. But a Vorkaxian princess did not simply die. She became a statement, a message, a weapon unto herself. In that moment of absolute crisis, she made a choice that would change everything. As the ship continued to disintegrate around her, Ariana initiated a protocol that existed in the most classified sections of Vorkaxian military doctrine: her personal survival pod. A technological marvel that was part escape vehicle, part weapon system, would become her final act of defiance. The pod was more than a simple escape mechanism. It was a quantum-encrypted time capsule capable of preserving her biological systems, recording tactical data, and potentially serving as a last resort weapon of unprecedented destructive capability. Most would see it as a means of survival. In Ariana's hands, it became something far more complex. As the Crimson Nebula consumed the dying Imperial Fury, the survival pod launched. Vorkaxian communication systems would immediately broadcast her death, a martyr to the Imperial cause. But Ariana knew something her people did not. Death was just another variable to be manipulated. The last visual record from the ship's systems captured something extraordinary. As the pod launched, Princess Ariana was not looking at her potential salvation. She was studying the human ships with an intensity that suggested this was not an end, but a beginning. In the vast, indifferent canvas of the Crimson Nebula, a single survival pod carried with it the first tremors of a revolution that would reshape galactic civilization. The survival pod crashed into Epsilon 9 with the delicate touch of a meteor strike. Asteroid dust exploded in a silicate hurricane, momentarily obscuring the impact site. The human outpost's early warning systems screamed a cacophony of alerts, Quantum signature detected. Unknown energy readings. Potential biohazard. Lieutenant Michael Rodriguez wasn't a typical human commander. His left arm was a biomechanical prosthetic, a testament to human innovation. Cobbled together from salvaged mining equipment, military-grade neural interfaces, and pure desperation. Each component told a story of survival, of making something extraordinary from the remnants of destruction. "Hold positions," he commanded, his voice cutting through the station's controlled chaos. Unlike most military leaders, Rodriguez moved with the fluid grace of someone who had spent more time solving problems than giving orders. His team was a motley collection of miners, ex-military, and scientific refugees, each one a specialist in turning limitations into opportunities. The survival pod was a nightmare of quantum-locked alloys and bioreactive shielding. Standard scanning protocols meant nothing. Where other commanders might have seen a potential weapon, Rodriguez saw a life. A puzzle. A possibility. "Dr. Chen, what are we looking at?" Rodriguez asked, his neural interface pulling holographic data streams from multiple sensor arrays. Dr. Elena Chen, the station's chief xenobiological researcher, examined the pod's quantum signature with a mixture of scientific curiosity and tactical caution. "It's Vorkaxian," she muttered, "but something's wrong. The energy readings are incomplete. Fragments of a system that shouldn't be functioning." The pod's outer shell began to shift, not by any external command, but through an internal adaptive process that defied conventional understanding. Quantum-locked molecular structures realigned, creating microscopic passages that suggested an intelligence far beyond simple mechanical design. Rodriguez's prosthetic arm ran a series of diagnostics. Each scan revealed layers of complexity that challenged everything humans understood about alien technology. "It's protecting something," he realized. "Not defending against us. Protecting what's inside." When the pod finally opened, it wasn't a dramatic explosion or a weaponized release. It was a calculated, precise unveiling. Princess Ariana lay within, her biomechanical combat suit partially damaged, her body existing in a state between life and the quantum uncertainty that had preserved her. Dr. Chen's initial assessment was brutal in its scientific clarity. Survival probability: 0.03%. Multiple organ systems in quantum flux. Cellular degradation at 89%. Any standard medical intervention would kill her faster than her current condition. Rodriguez saw something else. Where others might have seen an enemy, a weapon, a potential intelligence threat, he saw a life worth saving. "Prepare the quantum adaptive medical suite," he ordered, "and get me every piece of non-standard medical equipment we have." The medical bay was a nightmare of improvisation. A mining laser became a precision cellular realignment tool. Quantum communication arrays were repurposed into diagnostic instruments. Cooling systems from atmospheric processors became advanced life support mechanisms. Dr. Chen worked with a fury of calculation and creativity. "Her cellular structure is quantum-locked," she explained. "Traditional medical protocols would tear her apart. We need to match her technological complexity with our own adaptive approach." Ours became a dance of impossible medical innovation. Rodriguez watched, his prosthetic arm running continuous calculations, suggesting micro-adjustments that pushed the boundaries of human medical understanding. When Ariana's eyes finally flickered open, she didn't see enemies. She saw something far more dangerous. Humans who had just performed a medical miracle that would have been considered impossible by her own civilization's most advanced systems. The first words she heard were from Rodriguez: "Welcome to Epsilon 9. Try not to move too much." In that moment, the first threads of an impossible alliance began to weave themselves into existence. Consciousness returned to Ariana like quantum fragments reassembling themselves. Her Vorkaxian neural implants struggled to interpret the environment. Each input was a puzzle, each sensation a challenge to her fundamental understanding of existence. Lieutenant Rodriguez sat nearby, engaged in what appeared to be a completely mundane task. Repairing a communication array using what looked like a kitchen utensil, a quantum recalibrator, and what might have been part of a mining drill. To Ariana, it was an incomprehensible ritual of creation. "Your communication protocols are fascinating." She finally spoke, her voice a precise mathematical cadence. "You repair complex technological systems with what appears to be random components." Rodriguez looked up, a slight smile playing on his lips. "Not random," he corrected. "Adaptive. Every limitation is an opportunity." The universal translator between them struggled. Vorkaxian language was a complex mathematical equation of hierarchical communication. Human language was something else entirely, fluid, metaphorical, filled with layers of meaning that defied linear interpretation. Dr. Elena Chen observed their interaction, her scientific mind racing. The communication between a recovering Vorkaxian princess and a human lieutenant was unlike any first contact scenario in galactic history. In the Imperium, Ariana explained, her neural implants projecting holographic diagrams that mapped out Vorkaxian communication protocols. Communication is a precise exchange of information. Hierarchical. Structured. Each word carries a quantum-encoded layer of social positioning. Rodriguez picked up a spare component, turning it over in his hands. "And in human communication," he responded, "meaning isn't just in the words. It's in the spaces between words, in context, in possibility." To demonstrate, he told a joke. Not a simple verbal construction, but a complex narrative that relied on cultural context, unexpected linguistic twists, and the art of subverting expectations. The universal translator literally sparked, unable to process the multilayered communication. Ariana's neural implants went into overdrive. This wasn't just language. It was a form of cognitive warfare. Each joke was a miniature problem-solving exercise, a way of challenging established thought patterns, of seeing the world from multiple simultaneous perspectives. "Your language," she realized, is a form of cognitive adaptation. Each communication is a potential revolution. Dr. Chen intervened, fascinated. "The Vorkaxian language is a closed system," she noted, "mathematically perfect, but ultimately static. Human language is a living organism. It evolves. It breaks its own rules." Rodriguez demonstrated by showing Ariana how human technicians communicated during crisis, a blend of technical precision, emotional support, and improvisational problem-solving. A mining team's communication log was a symphony of mathematical precision and emotional nuance. "We don't just exchange information," Rodriguez explained. "We create possibilities." Ariana's understanding of intelligence began to fracture. The Vorkaxian Imperium saw communication as a tool of control, of maintaining rigid hierarchical structures. Humans saw communication as a collaborative act of creation. When she asked about a particularly complex human idiom, "breaking the ice," Rodriguez spent 30 minutes explaining not just its literal meaning, but its cultural implications, its historical origins, its psychological underpinnings. It was less an explanation and more a comprehensive deconstruction of human social interaction. For the first time, Ariana understood that what her civilization called chaos was actually the most sophisticated form of intelligence she had ever encountered. The universe, she was learning, was not a system to be controlled. It was a conversation waiting to happen. The quantum signature of the approaching Vorkaxian strike force cut through the asteroid's interference like a blade of pure mathematical precision. Epsilon 9 outpost transformed in an instant, a living organism preparing for impossible survival. Lieutenant Rodriguez's neural interface blazed with incoming tactical data. The Vorkaxian fleet wasn't just coming. They were bringing total annihilation, a standard Imperial cleansing operation designed to eliminate any trace of resistance. 3 heavy cruisers, each capable of turning the entire asteroid into cosmic dust, emerged from quantum-masked approach vectors. Ariana stood beside Rodriguez, her partially repaired biomechanical suit humming with potential energy. She had a choice that would define everything: reveal the outpost's location and potentially earn her way back to Imperial favor, or stand with the humans who had saved her life. "They'll be scanning for any quantum signature," she said, her voice a precise mathematical algorithm of survival. "Standard Imperial protocol requires complete elimination of any potential resistance node." Rodriguez's response was pure human improvisation. "Then we'll give them something to scan that isn't us." The human team moved with a fluidity that defied conventional military training. A mining laser became a quantum signal generator. Communication arrays transformed into elaborate energy deflection systems. Where the Vorkaxian approach demanded perfect, static solutions, the humans saw the battlefield as a living, breathing system to be manipulated. Dr. Chen's voice cut through the tactical network. "I've developed a quantum masking protocol using the asteroid's mineral composition. We can make our entire base look like nothing more than standard geological formations." But Ariana knew something more was required. Her intimate knowledge of Vorkaxian military protocols became their most powerful weapon. She began to map out the blind spots in their scanning systems, microscopic gaps that most species would never notice. "Their quantum scanners have a 0.003 second refresh cycle in the low-frequency band," she explained. "If we can create a cascading interference pattern that exactly matches the background radiation of the asteroid's core, we can effectively become invisible." Rodriguez looked at her, a smile playing at the corner of his mouth. "Invisible isn't enough. We need to be boring." The plan that emerged was nothing short of beautiful in its complexity. They would transform the entire outpost into something so unremarkable, so perfectly mundane, that the Vorkaxian scanners would actively avoid looking too closely. Mining equipment was repositioned. Energy signatures were carefully modulated. The entire human approach was a masterclass in strategic misdirection, turning the concept of camouflage into an art form of quantum-level deception. As the Vorkaxian ships drew closer, Ariana felt something she had never experienced in her Imperial training: the electric potential of pure, uncontrolled possibility. Rodriguez noticed her tension. "Second thoughts?" he asked. "Calculations," she corrected. "I'm recalibrating my entire understanding of survival." The first quantum sweeps began. Massive energy fields washed over the asteroid, searching for any hint of resistance. But where the Vorkaxian scanners expected clear, distinct signatures, they found only a perfectly ordinary piece of cosmic geology. Ariana watched as the human team, miners, scientists, former soldiers, worked with a collaborative intensity that would have been considered impossible in the Vorkaxian Imperium. Each person was both a specialist and a generalist, capable of adapting to whatever the moment demanded. When the Vorkaxian fleet finally moved on, leaving Epsilon 9 untouched, something fundamental had changed. Ariana had made her choice, not through a single moment of decision, but through a continuous process of understanding. The asteroid remained, unnoticed, unbroken, a testament to the power of human innovation. The workshop of Epsilon 9 was a cathedral of impossible creation, where the Vorkaxian Imperium saw perfection in static design. Humans saw potential in every discarded component, every seemingly broken system. Ariana watched Lieutenant Rodriguez's work with a growing sense of profound disorientation. He wasn't just repairing a quantum communication array. He was reimagining its entire existence. A mining drill's cooling system became a precision calibration tool. A damaged power relay transformed into a quantum signal amplifier. In the Imperium, she observed, each technological component has a single predetermined purpose. Rodriguez didn't look up from his work. His hands moved with a fluid grace that suggested the line between human and machine was far more blurred than any alien civilization understood. "Purpose is just another word for limitation," he responded. Dr. Chen approached with a holographic display that was equal parts scientific diagram and artistic expression. "Watch this," she said, pulling apart a standard communication relay and rebuilding it using components that should have been fundamentally incompatible. The demonstration was more than technical innovation. It was a philosophical statement. Ariana's biomechanical neural interfaces struggled to process what she was witnessing. The humans weren't just solving problems. They were creating entire new paradigms of problem-solving. Where Vorkaxian technology demanded perfect, predetermined solutions, human technology was a living, breathing entity of constant reinvention. Your systems don't just adapt, she realized. They evolve. A massive holographic display showed the progression of human technological development. Unlike the linear, carefully controlled advancement of the Vorkaxian Imperium, human technological growth looked like a chaotic explosion of possibility. Each breakthrough seemed to emerge from the most unexpected combinations of ideas, resources, and pure human audacity. Rodriguez pulled out what looked like a standard communication device. This started as a mining sensor, he explained. Then it became a medical diagnostic tool. Now it's part of our emergency communication network. The device was a physical manifestation of human potential. Its circuitry was a maze of improvised connections, each modification telling a story of survival, of turning limitation into opportunity. Dr. Chen's research revealed something even more profound. Human technological adaptation wasn't just about physical components, it was a reflection of their cognitive process. Where most species saw obstacles, humans saw puzzles. Where others sought perfection, humans celebrated the beauty of constant improvement. The Vorkaxian Imperium believes in a universe of controlled systems, Ariana noted. But humans, you see the universe as a conversation. A klaxon suddenly blared. An incoming quantum anomaly that would have sent most stations into panic. The human team didn't just respond. They transformed the potential threat into an opportunity for understanding. Rodriguez's team moved with a synchronicity that defied traditional military training. Each person was simultaneously a specialist and a generalist, capable of shifting roles instantaneously. A mining engineer became a quantum physicist. A medical technician transformed into a communication specialist. Ariana watched as they turned a potential crisis into a moment of collective problem-solving. This wasn't just technological adaptation. This was a fundamental reimagining of intelligence itself. In the Imperium, she said quietly, we are trained to control. Here, you are learning to collaborate. The quantum anomaly resolved itself, not through force, but through an elegant dance of human innovation. Another impossible moment transformed into another opportunity for growth. The universe, Ariana was learning, was not a system to be conquered. It was a living, breathing puzzle waiting to be understood. The ship that would carry Rodriguez and Ariana back to the Vorkaxian homeworld was neither human nor Vorkaxian. It was something entirely new. Constructed in the workshops of Epsilon 9, it represented a quantum leap in technological collaboration that would have been considered impossible by any standard galactic protocol. Its quantum drive was a Vorkaxian marvel, its adaptive systems pure human innovation. Cooling mechanisms repurposed from mining equipment interfaced with biomechanical neural networks that would make Vorkaxian engineers weep. Every system told a story of breaking boundaries, of reimagining what was possible. This vessel defies every standard of ship design in the known galaxy, Ariana observed, her neural interfaces running continuous diagnostic suites. Rodriguez's laugh was something between a mathematical calculation and pure human joy. That's the point, he responded. The journey itself became a metaphor for their unlikely alliance. Star charts were no longer fixed points but living, breathing systems of potential. Navigation wasn't about following predetermined routes, but about constant adaptation. Dr. Chen had integrated a system that was part communication array, part cultural translation matrix. It wasn't just translating language, it was creating bridges of understanding that went far beyond mere words. In the Imperium, Ariana explained, a journey is a precise calculation. Optimal route, minimal energy expenditure, maximum efficiency. Rodriguez plotted their course by a method that would have terrified any standard navigation eye. He used what he called possibility mapping, a technique that treated each potential route as a living, breathing system of potential outcomes. Their communication became a dance of two fundamentally different intelligence systems. Ariana's precise, mathematically perfect communication began to develop unexpected flourishes, hints of human metaphorical thinking, moments of pure improvisational brilliance. The ship's systems were a living testament to their collaboration. A Vorkaxian quantum stabilizer would suddenly adapt using a human-designed cooling mechanism. Communication arrays would reconfigure themselves based on predictive algorithms that combined imperial precision with human creativity. Most remarkable was how they addressed potential threats. Where the Vorkaxian Imperium would respond with overwhelming force, Rodriguez and Ariana developed a system of adaptive response that was equal parts diplomatic negotiation and technological improvisation. An unexpected quantum storm approached, the kind of spatial anomaly that would have destroyed a standard vessel. Instead of fighting, their ship began to dance with the storm. Quantum shields reconfigured. Navigation systems predicted and avoided potential damage points with a fluidity that defied traditional understanding. "We're not controlling the storm," Rodriguez explained. "We're communicating with it." Ariana's neural interfaces nearly overloaded trying to process this concept. Communication wasn't just an exchange of information, it was a form of collaborative existence. Their personal transformation was equally profound. Ariana was no longer just a Vorkaxian princess. Rodriguez was more than a human lieutenant. They had become something else, ambassadors of a new way of understanding intelligence itself. As they approached Vorkaxian space, the ship itself seemed to pulse with potential. It wasn't just a vessel of transportation. It was a living argument against everything the Imperium believed about the nature of intelligence, of collaboration, of survival. The universe watched, and everything was about to change. The grand chamber of the Vorkaxian Imperial Court was a monument to mathematical perfection. Crystalline structures that seemed to defy physics stretched toward a ceiling that pulsed with quantum-encoded historical records. Every surface was a testament to the Imperium's belief in absolute control, in the supremacy of predetermined order. King Zorlan sat upon a throne that was less a seat of power and more a living computational matrix. His neural interfaces connected directly to the collective imperial consciousness, a system that had maintained galactic dominance for millennia. When Princess Ariana entered, accompanied by Lieutenant Michael Rodriguez, the entire court went silent. This was not the triumphant return of a lost royal heir. This was something far more dangerous. Rodriguez stood not as a prisoner, not as a diplomat, but as a living challenge to everything the Imperium believed about intelligence, about survival, about the very nature of existence. "Explain," King Zorlan commanded, his voice a precise mathematical algorithm of imperial authority. Ariana began to dismantle the Vorkaxian understanding of warfare, of society, of intelligence, using her father's own protocols against him. She presented a holographic display that was part tactical report, part philosophical deconstruction. "The human approach to survival is not chaos," she explained. "It is the most advanced form of adaptive intelligence we have ever encountered." The hologram showed moments from their journey, the impossible ship they had constructed, the way they had transformed potential threats into opportunities, the collaborative problem-solving that defied every principle of imperial strategy. Rodriguez stood silent, but his presence was a statement. Where the Vorkaxian nobility expected a conquered enemy, they found an equal. His very existence challenged their understanding of hierarchy, of power, of intelligence. Dr. Chen, who had accompanied them, began to present scientific evidence that would shake the foundations of imperial understanding. Each slide was a knife cutting through millennia of imperial doctrine. "Your technological systems are perfect," she explained, "but perfectly static. Human technology is a living organism. It doesn't just adapt, it evolves." The court's neural interfaces began to struggle. The information presented was not just a challenge to their understanding. It was a fundamental threat to their entire way of existence. King Zorlan's response was not anger. It was something far more dangerous, a dawning realization that everything they believed about intelligence might be fundamentally wrong. Ariana delivered the final blow. Using her father's own computational language, she demonstrated how human collaborative thinking could solve problems that the Imperium's most advanced systems could not even comprehend. "We are not presenting alternative," she said. "We are showing you the next stage of galactic intelligence." Rodriguez finally spoke, not in the mathematical precision of Vorkaxian communication, but in a way that was simultaneously more precise and more fluid. Each word was a potential universe of meaning. The court watched as the impossible happened. The rigid structures of imperial power began to fracture, not through force, but through understanding. "Humanity," Rodriguez said, "is not a species to be conquered. We are a conversation waiting to happen." In that moment, everything changed. The Vorkaxian Imperium, a civilization that had believed in the absolute supremacy of its own intelligence, found itself on the precipice of a fundamental transformation. The universe watched, and nothing would ever be the same again. The aftermath of the imperial confrontation was not destruction, but something far more revolutionary. Transformation became the only constant. Epsilon 9 Outpost became more than a human settlement. It became a living laboratory of galactic potential. Scientists, diplomats, and thinkers from 100 different species began to arrive, drawn by the impossible story of Princess Ariana and Lieutenant Rodriguez. Their collaborative model spread like a quantum virus of understanding. Where previous galactic interactions had been defined by conquest or rigid diplomatic protocols, a new approach emerged, one that celebrated diversity, adaptability, and collective problem-solving. Dr. Elena Chen developed what became known as the Adaptive Intelligence Protocols, a revolutionary approach to understanding that transcended species-specific limitations. Her work demonstrated that intelligence was not a fixed state, but a continuous process of transformation. Rodriguez and Ariana became more than ambassadors. They were living proof of a new way of existing, a partnership that defied every established galactic norm. Their relationship was a constant negotiation, a dynamic system of mutual understanding that changed with each interaction. The Vorkaxian Imperium began to change from within. Young imperial scholars studied the Rodriguez-Ariana protocols, a comprehensive analysis of how collaborative thinking could solve problems that traditional hierarchical systems could not even comprehend. Their first major collaborative project was ambitious beyond imagination. They proposed a galactic communication network that would allow for unprecedented levels of cultural and technological exchange. It wasn't just a communication system. It was a living, adaptive organism of understanding. King Zorlan, once the most rigid enforcer of imperial doctrine, became an unexpected ally. His daughter had shown him something fundamental, that true strength was not in control, but in the capacity to adapt, to learn, to transform. The technology they developed was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Communication arrays that could translate not just languages, but entire cultural contexts. Adaptive systems that could predict and prevent conflicts before they began. Problem-solving methodologies that turned limitations into opportunities. Ariana discovered something profound about her own civilization. The Vorkaxian belief in perfect, static systems had been a limitation, not a strength. Human unpredictability was not a weakness to be conquered, but the most advanced form of intelligence imaginable. Rodriguez, for his part, saw beyond human exceptionalism. This was not about human superiority, but about a fundamental reimagining of what intelligence could be. Each species had potential. The key was creating systems that could celebrate that potential. Their work attracted attention from unexpected quarters. Species that had been marginalized, overlooked, suddenly found themselves at the center of a new galactic understanding. The rigid hierarchies that had defined galactic civilization for millennia began to crumble. On the 10th anniversary of their first meeting, they stood together on the observation deck of a ship that was itself a testament to their collaborative vision. Half Vorkaxian, half human, entirely something new. "We're not just changing a civilization," Rodriguez observed. Ariana completed the thought. a habit they had developed over years of collaborative thinking. We're rewriting the fundamental understanding of what it means to be intelligent. The universe listened, and everything continued to change. Their legacy was not a victory of one species over another. It was a victory of possibility over limitation, of collaboration over control, of understanding over conquest. A new chapter in galactic history had begun.